Hi everybody, Sandra Vale here at Homesteading Ways, and today I thought I would show all you budding new gardeners how to start some basic seeds indoors, seeds that are really easy to grow. And forgive my speech, I know it might be hard to understand me today. I had a bunch of dental work done yesterday, so hopefully by the next video you can understand me better. But anyhow, we're going to get started by putting our potting soil here in a big bowl. You can use a bucket or whatever. It just depends on how many seeds you're doing. You don't have to use any kind of special potting soil, no fertilizer or anything. Seeds do not need fertilizer to germinate. And overall, your seedlings shouldn't need much for a while anyhow. So once you get your soil in there, you're going to want to get it wet. Not soaking wet where it's dripping, but thoroughly wet. And then once you do that, you're going to put it in whatever it is you're planting in. Now these are little cells, they call them. And I think this one holds 72. You can get them in smaller quantities as well. But anyhow, get your wet soil in there. And then start with your seeds. These are my favorite tomato seeds. I save them every year. So I have some planted already, but I have no problem planting a few more. And tomatoes are fairly easy to plant yourself, to start from seed. You're just going to want to make a little hole here in your soil with your finger, plop that seed down and cover it. I'm going to try and get a close-up for you guys. Alright, I'm going to try and show you this up close. This is not very deep for these tomato seeds. But make sure to follow directions on whatever your seed packet is. Or if your friend gave you seeds, what they recommend. And just cover it up. I'd say this is probably, about 1/4 of an inch. Now most of the time you're going to want to plant 2 to a cell, because just to make sure you get what you planted. Sometimes they won't all sprout up, you know, so, but I already have a bunch, so I'm only going to plant 1 per cell. And you may want to look up, there's a lot of great gardening sites out there, how many plants you want for enough vegetables for fresh eating or canning or freezing. You know, maybe you only want 1 or 2 tomato plants, but if you plan on, say, canning a bunch of sauce, you may want a lot more. So plant accordingly. Now that's all my tomatoes. Okay, now that the tomatoes are done, I'm going to mark them. I plan on planting a bunch of different things in this, so I need to make sure I mark everything, because sometimes when they're first coming up, a lot of plants look alike. So you can try this, these little sticks here, right on there, and just stick them in here, like that. Or a lot of times I just use tape. This is painter's tape. I just write what it is and then put it down here on the side. And it stays pretty well. Do, you know, what works for you. But these are my tomatoes. So I'm going to mark that. Just stick that in there. And then I'm going to move on. The next thing I'm planting is peppers. Everybody seems to love to plant tomatoes and peppers, and with good reason, because they're just delicious and they cost more and more every year in the stores. And you really don't want to buy out of season or buy somewhere where it's being shipped in, so plant what you can. These I saved again because these are from Bulgaria. They're an heirloom variety. and I really like them. They're really sweet, sweet red pepper. So I'm kind of doing the same thing. These are about, again, 1/4 of an inch, and you're just going to put them in there. Cover them up. Most seeds do not need light to germinate. There are a few exceptions though, so make sure while you're planting you pay close attention to the directions. Okay, done with that. Now there are a lot of different plants you can grow yourself that are fairly easy. Make sure to time them out. A lot of them will say, you know, start indoors 2 to 4 weeks before your frost date, or you know, some are 8 weeks. Go on the internet and just find out where your hardiness zone is, and then you know, when you find your hardiness zone, mine is 5, so I can look on the internet and find out when my last frost date is based on my hardiness zone, and then that way you can time out, you know, when to plant your seedlings. So a lot of these need to start at the same time, some don't. So you just want to check on this. Now right here is cucumber, so I'm gonna do a few of those too. Cucumbers are fairly easy to grow. Just make sure you don't plant them outside when there's any chance of a frost, because they do not like cold weather, and they will die on you, you know, really quickly. Oopsies. Now if you plan on doing pickles, there are a lot of good varieties out there specifically to make pickles, so you want to check that out. It's just Paul and I, so I don't need too many. Okay, and rather than sit here and have you watch everything, I'm going to go over a few seeds. Now, this is parsley. Parsley grows really well. I've never had a problem growing parsley. This is curly, but I've also grown flat leaf, and that's fine too. And you'll get plenty of it, and it's good to dry this. You can dry it on your countertop or hanging from the ceiling or in a dehydrator. It dries really well, and you'll have plenty to last you until next year's garden. And here's sage. Love sage. Sage grows really well too. I mean, a lot of people don't cook with sage. I do in some stuff, but sage is so aromatic that it's one of those plants that helps to keep bugs away. Now here is more of a flowery thing. This is chamomile, German chamomile. And it's pretty with all its little flower heads, but I mainly grow it for the tea. So once you get the flowers, once they start blooming, you can keep picking them, and the more you pick them, the more will grow. So this does take a while to get going. I've seen these seeds take over 2 weeks almost to germinate, so don't get disheartened. Some seeds will take longer than others. Don't worry. Just keep doing what you're doing, and it'll work out. And these are calendula. I love planting calendula. They're more known as pot marigold, but I use calendula oil in a lot of my salves and stuff. And what you do is, when they're blooming, you go out in the morning and you pop a few of these heads off and you let them dry. And once they're dry, you infuse them in oil. And we can get into that another time in another video. But even if you don't use them for a salve, They're very pretty flowers. You can cut them small ones and bring them into your house, and they'll help to draw bees and other beneficial insects to your garden. But anyhow, once you have these going, once everything's planted, you're going to need to cover it. And I'll show you that in just a second. Now, normally when you buy these, they're going to come with these tops, domes. And they fit on there very easily. This is good to help keep moisture in and heat in. Once your seeds have germinated, though, they've popped up out of the soil, you're going to want to remove this, because then it will be too humid. Make sure to check your flat here a couple of times a day. You don't want this soaking wet, but you really don't want it to dry out either. So take a little mister, a sprayer or something, make sure, or you can lift this up and water from the bottom, pour water in there. I find it easier though just to spray when you're just doing a small flat like this. And I'm going to show you what I do with my seedlings in the other room, the ones that just popped up. Alrighty, I planted these. These are tomatoes and peppers. I planted them a little over a week ago. Now underneath here, I have a heat mat. And when you use a heat mat, it helps to speed up germination. Now, most people would put something like this right on top of their fridge, because their fridge is warm enough to give them just that little bit of extra help. Well, I haven't seen the top of my fridge in probably 5 years, so I have these little heat mats. The tomatoes obviously germinated before the peppers did, so I took the heat mat away from them, and I still have it on my peppers, and I'll probably take it away tomorrow when it looks like everything has popped up. Once they germinate, you don't want that heat anymore. It's not really good for them. And also the top. Once your seedlings start popping up, you take that lid off. Now, I don't have a window that does really good light, so I have this light here. In fact, my husband just put it up last night. And you can see how they're stretching already, trying to get to the light. So I'm going to have to switch it around or put another light in here, because you don't want this. This makes for long, spindly stems. You want thicker, shorter stems that can, hold the plant well once they're, outside and in the wind and everything. So I may lift it too, put a, like a book under here, because you want that light if you're going to use one. And they sell them at most big box hardware stores and stuff like that. You want that light really close to the plants. About an inch away, because that's the best for them. I can't do that right now, otherwise these won't be on the heat mat. But that's what I plan on doing. I'm going to raise this up or put my light down, or perhaps even add a second light. But if you're doing it at home and you're putting them in a window, which is fine, make sure to check them. And every time you see them stretching like that, flip it around. You want them to be up and straight as much as you can. And don't let them stay too wet or they'll rot. And don't let them dry out, because that's death to seedlings. But anyhow, I hope this got you started on planting seeds indoors. There's a million great books out there and great websites, including homesteadingways.com, for tons of gardening information. Thanks for taking time to watch the video. I appreciate it. Please thumbs up, subscribe, that would be great. It was nice talking to you. And you take care.